Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
Positronic Hypersonic.
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the penultimate ever episode of The Boys. It was called The Frenchman, the Female, and the Man Called Mother's Milk. As it starts, O Father is rehearsing for the Democratic Church of America's Easter Sunday service. Homelander's not there because he's away in Washington, meeting with President Calhoun and Vice President Ashley. Of course, he's in the Oval Office, sitting at the president's desk, and he demands that the Democratic Church of America become the official national religion of the country, and that the president dissolve completely the separation of church and state, as well as Congress. Calhoun, of course, attempts to tell Homelander that he can't do that stuff because it's not within his authority as president, and he orders other Ashley, aka Bashley, to read Calhoun's mind. And when he finally hears the president's true thoughts, which are that he's scared for his life and believes that Homelander is psychotic, Homelander tells the president that he's disappointed and then squishes his head like a zit and walks out of the Oval Office as a terrified Ashley stands there alone, stunned, and President of the United States. Elsewhere, Annie and Mother's Milk are meeting with Gen V's Marie Moreau and Jordan Lee, who have received intel from their friend Emma that O Father's been spending a lot of time at Vought Studios as of late. Annie tells them that she's thankful for their help, but that they should now just walk away, which upsets them. Elsewhere, Huey's trying to rest, but is awakened by Kimiko screaming. He finds her in a chamber of radiation with her skin peeling as Butcher and Frenchie study her. They explain that they're trying to give Kimiko Soldier Boy's powers, which will enable them to depower Homelander. Annie and MM come in and see the sickly Kimiko, immediately believing it was Butcher's idea to do this, but Kimiko steps in and tells them it was hers. Annie and MM proceed to update the rest of the team about O Father's location, with Butcher proposing that he and Huey break into Vought Studios. Huey isn't so keen on the idea, stating that they have already lost. Desperate, Butcher gives the team a pep talk about Posh Spice, claiming that she was the weakest member of the Spice Girls, but never gave up and has thus achieved all kinds of success, which was hilarious. Meanwhile, the Deep is called into the Seven's conference room for a one-on-one with Homelander. He admits that he killed Black Noir II and apologizes, at which point Homelander tells him he has nothing to worry about since he's dissolving the Seven. The Deep tearfully pleads with Homelander, begging him to be allowed to lead the team instead of having it be dissolved, as he says he has nothing else. But Homelander doesn't give in and he sends the Deep away. Butcher, Huey, Annie, and MM make their way into Vought Studios, with Butcher telling the latter two to work while he and Huey team up. Annie and MM find the Worm directing the series finale of the Vought Plus series American Eagle, complete with an actress playing an exaggerated version of Starlight. Back at the base, Frenchie asks Sister Sage for help with giving Kimiko Soldier Boy's powers, right as she's getting ready to lobotomize herself again. Sage scoffs at Frenchie's profession of love for Kimiko, telling Frenchie that love is the one thing that blinded her, as it was what made Soldier Boy finally align himself with Homelander. In the aftermath, she feels her powers are now useless. I've been saying that for a long time. Anyway, Butcher and Huey make their way to a soundstage where they spot O Father talking to Synapse, one of the psychics displayed on the bulletin board at O Father's church. As Butcher and Huey try to make their way out, Synapse spots them and knocks them out. The Deep is sitting alone at a dock, drinking beers and throwing cans into the ocean. One of his former sea life friends, Xander the Shark, tells him to pick up his trash. The Deep continuously refuses, claiming he's had a rough day. Xander then angrily tells the Deep that all sea life knows he is responsible for the pipeline genocide and no longer want anything to do with him. In fact, they tell him that if he steps in any body of water, like even a puddle, they're going to kill him. And the cool part about this is that Xander the Shark was voiced by Samuel L. Jackson. Ashley, now President of the United States, sits in the Oval Office as Bashley tells her that it is now their chance to step in and stop Homelander. Ashley refuses, still in fear for her life, and other Ashley informs Ashley that they are no longer allies. Back on the studio lot, Annie and Mother's Milk find O Father leading a focus group for a first look at Homelander's next chapter. O Father takes the focus group to a room guarded by more psychics, as well as Dognot and She-Line. Annie and Mother's Milk hide in the projection booth of the screening room as the focus group is shown a corny, unfinished film about Jesus Christ giving Homelander his crown of thorns. Homelander, elsewhere, enthusiastically shows Soldier Boy his plans for a new Vought theme park called Homeland, referring to it as the next phase of his reboot. He's even planned an area honoring Soldier Boy, who isn't impressed. Soldier Boy then tells Homelander that he's leaving for Bogota, as he no longer wants any part of Homelander's plan. He reminds Homelander that the only reason he gave him the V1 was that it was what Stormfront would have wanted. He even tells him that he doesn't believe Homelander's God. This, of course, enrages Homelander, who screams at him and places him in a chokehold, knocking him out. Huey and Butcher wake up, chained to chairs in a boardroom. Huey suggests that Butcher uses tentacles to free them, but Butcher admits that Synapse has deactivated his powers. Huey laments once more that they failed before Butcher insists otherwise. We're going all the way on this, no matter what, till the job is done, he says. Frenchie watches Kimiko as she subjects herself to the radiation chamber once more. He begs her to stop as she is barely healing, and if she continues, he says, she will die. He then confronts her, telling her about his plans of settling down once they've killed Homelander. When Kimiko experiences a seizure, Frenchie finds Sage, who is still lobotomized, and begs her for help, and she finally agrees to help him. Meanwhile, Synapse mimics Huey's voice and calls Annie, asking where she is, and she gives him her location. While continuing to watch O-Father talk with a focus group, Annie wonders what the point of saving those who don't want to be saved is. In response, MM tells Annie the story of how he got his nickname. It turns out that when he was a kid, he saved a sick pigeon and attempted to nurture it back to health. He was then bullied by the kids on his block who called him Mother's Milk, but instead of rejecting the name, he embraced it as a badge of honor. He tells Annie that being cynical is easy and that giving a shit doesn't make you soft, it's hard as hell. They then overhear She-Line and Dognot making their way into the room and proceed to hide in the vents. As it turns out, they're not hunting for Annie and Mother's Milk and proceed to sniff each other's posteriors. It is then revealed that Homelander has placed Soldier Boy back into his hibernation chamber. He then receives a call from O-Father who tells them that they've caught Butcher and Huey, but haven't killed them yet, and Homelander tells him to wait because he wants to find Sage first. In speaking with the focus group, O-Father begins to feel concerned upon realizing that only 6 of the 30 attendees actually believe Homelander is God. The Deep calls his manager, begging for help, but becomes distracted when he sees someone drowning in the water. Civilians on shore beg him to save the person, and his manager, who overhears the commotion, tells him that saving the person will give him good publicity, but instead of diving in, the Deep cowardly runs away, leaving the person to die. Synapse begins to interrogate Butcher and Huey, transforming into Joe Kessler, a person from Butcher's past that he hallucinated conversations with in a previous season. He taunts Butcher about letting his Special Forces squadron die to take out a target. Synapse then leaves, having gathered all the information that he needs from Butcher, including Kimiko's plot and Sage's assistance. Back at the studio, O-Father informs the members of the focus group, who did not truly believe the Homelander is God, that there is no place for heresy in the world anymore. And he locks them inside the screening room, ordering She-Line and Dognot to dispose of them. Annie and MM rush in to fight off She-Line and Dognot, ultimately killing both of them and freeing the members of the focus group that weren't killed before they got to the room. Synapse returns to Butcher and Huey to continue the interrogation, but this time Huey begins taunting Synapse about his dead brother, distracting him enough for Butcher to regain his powers and kill him. Annie and MM locate Marie and Jordan and ask them for help sheltering the rescued focus group members. Back at the base, Frenchie and Kimiko continue their testing with the radiation chamber, but just as Kimiko leaps out of the chamber, Homelander arrives, giving them no time to escape. Frenchie tells Sage and Kimiko to hide in a zinc structure because Homelander can't see through the zinc, while he distracts Homelander, who finds him using his X-ray vision. Frenchie then locks himself and Homelander inside the radiation chamber and turns it on. Homelander is mostly unfazed by the radiation and leaves, but Frenchie, of course, has been mortally harmed by the radiation. Kimiko rushes out of hiding and sees Frenchie stumbling out into the lab, collapsing on the floor. She gives Frenchie one last kiss as he dies in her arms after saying that it wasn't he who saved them, but it was she that saved him. Butcher and Huey then rush in and find a hysterical Kimiko holding on to Frenchie's body. And that's where the episode ended. So I was disappointed that we didn't really get to see exactly what effect the V1 had on Homelander. I mean, obviously he didn't grow a second head, but did it give him new powers? We don't know. Did it make him stronger? We don't know. Can he fly faster? We don't know. We can only assume now that it just made it so that he won't die of old age. So I don't know, maybe they'll tell us more in the finale, but I would have thought they would have put that in this episode, but they didn't bother, which is, like I said, disappointing. As usual, there was, plenty of gore and that's always good. I enjoy that. It was great to see Jeffrey Dean Morgan again. That's always good. Once again, I enjoyed seeing Soldier Boy give it to Homelander straight. Because, of course, he's not afraid of him. And he just, tells him flat out, you're not a god, you're an idiot. You're a weirdo. And I found myself kind of liking Soldier Boy, or realizing that I like Soldier Boy. I mean, obviously, he's an asshole. And he does bad things. But at the same time, he won't bullshit you. He's straightforward. And he's not afraid of Homelander. And he tells him the truth. And so, I found that enjoyable. Other than that, I didn't think there was anything special about this episode, and I suppose it's an episode that stands as a fair enough setup for the series finale. But as an episode in and of itself, I really didn't think much of it. Of course, the sacrifice by Frenchie at the end was very moving and powerful, and I feel really bad for Kimiko, and I can't wait to see her kick some ass, while she's grieving in the series finale. But overall, I didn't think the episode was anything special, and I'm concerned that I'm going to feel the same way about the finale. What will really disappoint me in the finale is if Soldier Boy doesn't come into the fray, if he stays in the hibernation chamber, and if he's not part of the final events. It will disappoint me if we don't get to see Starlight in her costume one more time, which I think would be a great thing to have them do, It's the final fight, and they're all going all in, and she's gonna, reclaim her heroism and put on the stinking costume and approach the final battle full on, and with no shame for who she is, and in reality, which of course is not who she's been depicted as. So I would really be disappointed if they don't do that. I'll also be disappointed if we don't see Queen Maeve. And I know that's a pipe dream at this point because they haven't even teased it. But, where the hell did Maeve go? We know where she went. She went off into the sunset. But, why would they not bring her back at this point? Why would she not be one of the people they reached out to and found to help them confront Homelander in the end? That would really disappoint me because she was there at the beginning. They should bring her back. I know it's not going to happen, but I would like to see it. It seems like the boys' plan is all riding on Kimiko being able to subdue him with the blast that she may have developed now after the exposure to the radiation, similar to what Soldier Boy can do. And I think it'd be really lame if that doesn't work. After everything they went through to make it happen, and after Frenchie died, I think it would be really lame if she isn't able to subdue Homelander that way. So I'm really hoping they do that. And then if they don't kill Homelander outright, what I think would be cool is if he ends up in a hibernation chamber, either Soldier Boy's very own or another one. In fact, I think that would be better than killing him because it preserves the threat of Homelander for the future. As in, well, they beat him this time, but what if he ever gets out? And they would have to come up with a good reason for doing that instead of killing him because of that very fact that he could get out and terrorize people again in the future. But I don't see them killing him, because he's such a behemoth of a character. I just don't see them ending the character. I can't imagine they'll do that. I could be wrong. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do, that's for sure. Anyway, with all that said, I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.